Welcome back, everybody. So today we're going to get into part 2 of my headlight and taillight build on my dirt bike. I'm not going to waste your time with a long intro today. Let's get to it. So as far as parts go for this little project, most of it's just from Amazon or eBay. This I bought a while back for my Jeep. I can't remember where I bought it from. Probably Amazon. Might have been eBay. One of the two. It was fairly cheap, I think like 20 bucks. Then we have some 5mm LEDs, red LEDs that are pre-wired for 12 volt because I'm lazy. We have some 5mm LED bezels. Got a handlebar switch that's apparently waterproof. We'll probably end up testing that at some point. We've got a couple 2-prong waterproof, again, waterproof, hopefully, connectors. We have a Milwaukee M12 battery adapter. And lastly, Milwaukee M12 4.0 amp hour battery. Just because I use those regularly, I have a bunch of them kicking around, so I figured why not? Editing Phil from the future here. So one thing I forgot to mention in all my filming was why I'm building this as a standalone electrical system and not tying into the bike's electrical. So on an older race bike like this, you have a stator. That stator provides electricity for spark. It doesn't really provide anything beyond that, so you can't charge batteries, run lights or accessories off it, anything like that. So you can buy a lighting stator, which does increase the output of the stator, and then you can run your lights, batteries, whatever off it. However, that does run you an extra couple $100. So in my case here, I decided to just spend that money on an adapter for my Milwaukee batteries and just keep everything worry-free and separate from the bike's electrical. All right, guys, back to this guy. So our next course of action is going to be to mount all of our components where they're going to be when we're done. So that's going to let us run all of our wires, figure out what lengths we need, and determine if we want to throw any connectors in there as well. So we're going to be mounting our battery mount and pack underneath the seat here. Did a little preliminary measuring to make sure everything would fit. So for my taillight, I'm going to be running just two 5mm LEDs. I'm going to be mounting them in these little bezels here. And I'm just going to mount them right into this little recess in my tailpiece here. I think that'll be nice and subtle. I'm not going to stick out too much, snag on things. I'll be running the wires literally from here to here. So those wires will be exposed underneath to rocks and everything else coming up from the tire. I might make a little plastic cover or something for those just to protect them on the backside. That looks pretty slick. And the LEDs kind of just sit flush to the end there, so they won't really stick out at all either. Perfect. And then on the back side here, we just have a little lock washer and retaining nut. So the design for these little LED bezels is kind of odd. So they give you this little retaining plug, I guess you'd call it. And the way it's designed, I don't know if you can see on camera, but there's two tiny little holes. Oh yeah, you can see it there. Two tiny little holes that you're supposed to put the leads the LED through before you do anything. So in theory, you couldn't really do this if your parts are already wired up. And because I was lazy, I'm just using some LEDs that already have a resistor wired up for 12 volt. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a drill bit and carefully try not to mangle my fingers here. Whoop. I'm going to grab some pliers. Fit the resistor through. Just. Perfect. It goes in like that. Just feed from the back side. That guy in. I'm a huge fan of this design. There's not a lot holding it in there. Camera on there so you can see. LED. That's the LED just sort of sits in there. Stands out, and that should be nice and bright for anyone behind me to at least kind of see me. I don't ride at night. At least I haven't yet. However, in Alberta, you're required to have headlight and a taillight on your off-road vehicles if you're riding on public land. That being said, I haven't had issues in the past. I know a lot of guys who don't have them, but I figured it'd just be nice for peace of mind. And then also, there are the occasional times when you get stuck out at night trying to make it back after someone gets stuck in a mud puddle too badly. So just having that peace of mind will be nice. And I just want to do a little test here to make sure I didn't damage any of my soldering on those LEDs there. I was being a little bit forceful when I pulled everything through. And there we go. So with all of our components mounted, I've made a nice spider's nest of wires going everywhere just to make sure everything works how it should. So now, click our switch. We have light up here. Got our 2 taillights. Perfect. Let's turn the lights off here and just see how it looks. So, got our taillights. Those are actually a lot brighter than I was expecting. And a decent amount of light coming out the front there too. So now it's just a matter of doing our routing, finding out where we want our wires to go, and then soldering everything up. Alright guys, let me run you through the spider web of wires I have going on here, just in case you're going to try to do this at home. Disclaimer, I'm not an electrician, I just figure it out as I go. So we have our switch, let's start here. Got 3 wires coming out of our switch. So we have the power coming into the switch from the battery, which is our blue wire there. We have our power going out, which is our black wire there, if you can see that. And then our brown wire there, the 3rd wire, is just the ground for the LED. So the LED up in the switch itself. So that one just goes back to the negative terminal on the battery. So power comes in from the battery into the blue wire, goes up to our switch, comes back down in the black wire, and then goes up to the light, and down from this black wire to the ground. So back to the negative on the battery terminal. So linked in there, sort of same idea. We got power coming in from the battery, up to the switch, down to our black wire here, and that's where we have this red wire going to the back. That's going to our LEDs, and then we have our negative coming off the LEDs, which goes back up to here and then back to the battery. A little redundant going all that way, but that's just what's going on. That's how it works. I'm gonna try to shorten up some wires here. I'm gonna start off by just throwing a plug right onto the battery adapter here. So we're gonna throw on one of our 2-point plugs, because that's one place we're definitely gonna need it, is on the seat. So when we take the seat off, we can just unbolt the system or unclip the system. All right, so here we go. I'm going to use our wire strippers. I love these Milwaukee wire strippers. If you have a chance, you need to do some wiring, pick these guys up. They work great. Put your shrink tube on first. I always forget to do that. Well, so as you can see here, I've run some shrink tube all the way up our LED leads. And the reason I did that is LEDs are pretty fragile at best. So I just want to protect these wires as best I can. I figured out what I'm going to do here to protect these wires. I'm going to take a couple pieces of that little PVC, or just one piece of that PVC we were using to build our number plate, and just screw it in back here. Those screws are going to be well under the seat, all hidden, and then just have that piece sort of protect everything, because these wires go from here into that hole there. And as you can see, I just cut another piece of PVC there, curved it a little bit to fit our space here, and that's just going to protect our wires. So I filmed one of the solders I did on one of the big wires coming off the battery lead, and that wire took a long time to heat up, so I'm not going to show you that one. I'm just going to redo that little film bit on this guy, because it's a little bit skinnier. So on this one, I'm going to go with quite a bit longer than I normally would for the shrink tube, just because I want to protect these wires. So we're going to need positive leads there, so we're just going to slide this guy, if I can get it. There we go. Awesome. Make our life a little easier. So we're going to fan that. Get both of these guys here. Give them a little twist. sure all your wires are sitting nice and snug against each other. The tighter everything's wrapped, the cleaner your solder is going to be. Got any funky bits poking out? All right. Grab our soldering iron. And what we want to do is we want to heat our wires up so that our solder will melt right into the wires. Go. See that? See how it melted right in there? That is perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Just slide down our shrink tube. Again, normally you'd only shrink tube the solder itself and like maybe a centimeter on either side of it. However, just because of the fragility of these wires, I just want to make sure everything in there is nice and protected. So over everything with our lighter here, shrink that down. And you're good to go. And we are wrapped up. Almost. So, got our lights working. Beautiful. Got our solder joints there. Got our battery hanging out down here. Actually, I'll show you guys while we're here. You can see my battery just touches the air filter, so there's lots of room in there. The wires in here, I'll probably run some split loom around, as well as some of the higher wear areas, like in and around here. I'm going to run some split loom, zip tie everything up. I'm not going to do it right now simply because I do have a new throttle cable to install, and if I start zip tying things, I'm going to have to cut those zip ties off again. And yeah, this stuff's all going to get tucked in kind of like so, and we are golden. So we got our new throttle cable in now. That's all out of the way and tidied up-ish. So now I'm going to take some 3/8 split loom, this stuff here, and I'm just going to wrap it around our cables, snake it through, just so all this is somewhat protected. So I got the bike all buttoned back up now. As you can see, it looks a little different with the forks installed there, but I'm really happy with that. And I was actually able to wrap my brake line in behind there, which is kind of nice, tucks everything away. And as you can see, the split loom is all zip tied up and out of the way. Comes down nice and clean. If anyone has any better suggestions than split loom, please let me know, because I'm not a huge fan of this stuff. It's just what I've used on vehicles for years for wire protection, but generally it's not being exposed to mud and everything else that I know this is going to collect. So let me know. I got out for a test drive. Unfortunately, I can't test drive in the evening right now. I live in a residential neighborhood, so even riding it during the day is a little bit of a nuisance to my neighbors. Don't want to go too crazy. Unfortunately, I laid it down coming into the driveway, and it's a nice 1.25 by 1.25 patch of skin that is gone there now, but huge shout out to my darling wife for patching me back up. When I have a chance to get out for a night ride, I will definitely post a video for you guys. At this point, I've run the light for 4 hours in the one battery, and it is still going strong. So I'd be more than comfortable taking that for a night ride. Once again, everybody, thank you so much for joining me today, guys. If you guys enjoyed the video, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments for me. We will see you next time.